So that was the Gigue from Sonata No.9 by Giovanni Zamboni. And we'll have a little lesson on the piece now and just be talking about some musical aspects and technical aspects of the piece. But if you're interested, I do have a sheet music edition of all the movements in Sonata No.9, and there's a link for that in the description. So this is the third movement after the prelude and the allemande. And fairly active piece, of course, in 6/8 time here. I would say that from a technical standpoint, at a slow tempo, it's not the most difficult piece, but once you start raising that tempo up, it becomes significantly harder, especially just in terms of like cleanliness of playing. That's what I would want to work on the most in the piece. Is when I start really raising the tempo, all these nitty-gritty little fingering changes, that it creates sound and squeaks and all sorts of things like that, and just destabilizes your playing as you go. So it's just a really important piece to start off nice and slow and just work it in, and just make sure that you're just feeling the 6/8 pulse of just, going along here, just really feeling like 2 beats per bar, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 4, 1, 4. So just also just relaxing it a little bit. I even feel like at the tempo that I chose, it was a little bit hard hitting, but it should be fairly smooth, I think. And just so finding a balance between having that nice feeling and a real legato performance, but also navigating all these chord changes and all the little motifs that he adds in. So, but that's your main goal. I don't think there's too much else to discuss musically. Just you want to keep the 2 voices as separate as possible, bringing out a clear bass line and a clear running melodic line as well. There's always kind of like a smooth, dominant, like running line in this music.
And there is counterpoint, but it's more, most of the time it's more just like making sure you sustain notes for their proper values. Because we're in regular tuning, there's one or two spots where I've adjusted the slur pattern from the original baroque lute tablature, and added in one or two extra ones just to make it consistent. So let's just do a small walkthrough and just cover some of the tricky parts in the piece. Because if you're going to play it quite quickly, I would use my second finger here. That way you are already on that finger. You don't have to do an awkward jump there. This is just a little bit of a challenging little section here. Out of all the movements of the entire sonata, that's just like the two measures where playing it in regular tuning makes it a little bit more difficult because of that F sharp is no longer open. When I was going through the whole sonata though, I was like, regular tuning works really well for this. These two measures, not as much, but I felt like it was reasonable to just refinger these ones and get through it. There is an ornament in that little section there. This is like measure 17 or something. I left it out in my performance just because when I raise the tempo, it's just getting a little bit awkward, all the changes and things like that. But at a slightly slower tempo, it's really nice to add that in. In measure 29, on the second time through, I do add a little mordant there. It's not in the original, but... So just a little E, D sharp, E. Then in the second half, you have lots of imitation of the first half in the sections, but a little bit more challenging of a section, though. Remember to hold your bass voices here, right? That last ornament there, I didn't want to, because of the bass note there, I didn't want to switch to third position. So I do a cross string trill. So E, D, E, D, A, M, I, P. At real fast tempos, a little bit tricky. An alternative fingering could be to do a bar on the 3rd fret and then get out of it. I don't mind, I like cross string trills, but it's a little risky at fast tempos. I use my second finger there just because my first finger is on the C just before, right? Tricky at fast tempos. At slower tempos, it's just fine. You just have to make sure you just are really ready for it, right? So this is kind of an imitation of the first half in a different key, right? That last little section there, you know, in the first half of the piece, he does this little thing. In the second half of the piece, the same, just a different key. A lot of those arpeggios there at the end, I'm going thumb, thumb, I, M, A, M. Just a light rest stroke through it. First ending. So in the second half there, just one thing I'll mention is that I've decided to really split the voicing up. So rhythmically, it's a little bit hard to read, and I apologize for that. But the reason I do it is that the voices have non-chord tones that resolve to another note. And by splitting it into 3 voices, you can see what note resolves to where. But it creates a little bit of rhythmic confusion maybe for some people. So like starting in like measure 46 even, that middle voice resolves. The middle voice resolves. The inner voice resolves there. Inner voice resolves. This D to C, E to D. It's a little bit tricky to look at first, but once you listen to the piece a little bit and you get to know it, you don't pay attention to it much. But that's just to show you the resolution of what non-chord tone is going where in what voice. If you're not ready for that kind of discussion, don't worry about it. Just play through the piece, get to know it by ear a lot, and you'll have no trouble just playing through it. A little bit awkward getting all those shapes, so give yourself quite a bit of extra time for this piece to practice it very, very slowly. Get to know every chord shape so that when you're approaching it, your hand position will be ready for it. I think that's my main piece of advice. Get the metronome out and just slowly go through it with 2 beats per bar and get a really nice feel for it, but also then start pushing the tempo to put a little bit of risk and excitement in there, so that you can like, in terms of the sonata, you can get some excitement going, but not so far that you start playing too uncleanly or that you start missing out on some of the opportunities to resolve voices and to flow through it in a nice way.